Welcome to From the Shed End podcast, episode 34, with myself, T Dot, and as always, I'm joined with Theo. I always get that bit wrong. I'm joined with Theo. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm buzzing. It's Friday. It's been a long week, and I'm sure you're in the same mindset to be that it's Friday and you're happy. But how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Like yourself, Friday, best part of the week, best part of the day, recording. So, yeah, looking forward to the weekend now as well, which we'll get on to Burnley later. But for anyone who's listening on Apple or Spotify, hopefully you found us. But for those on YouTube, you can also search for us on our social media accounts as well. So, at From the Shed End on Twitter as well, and Instagram is at From the Shed End with underscores between each of the words. So there's a lot of content on there. And again, YouTube, if you're on Apple or Spotify, you can find us at From the Shed End on YouTube as well. So give us some likes, subscribes, comments, all of that stuff as well. Let us know your thoughts. But let's get straight into it. Big game on Tuesday, made it a bit more difficult than we needed to. Malmo, one goal, Hakim Ziyech at last, providing the goods. What was your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, nothing like the first game, the reverse fixture at Stamford Bridge, where it was quite dominant, comfortable. This game felt a bit more tense, a bit more. Let's say Malmo maybe had a bit more opportunities and chances, even though we did have a lot of shots on target. I'm particularly thinking of their goalkeeper who made a string of saves in that first half. I think Havertz had a decent one-on-one with him. But, it was probably what you'd expect from a Champions League away game, if I'm honest. I'm thinking, back to so many previous seasons where we're playing relatively easy oppositions, but we still come out with a 2-1 win, a 1-0 win. And I guess that's what you get when you're traveling to another European country. You're playing in a ground which had, let's face it, quite an intimidating atmosphere. And the away fans there, they know how to put in, the home fans in Sweden, they got behind their team. But otherwise, it was, kind of, we played some decent football at times. I thought the actual, build up to the goal was fantastic. I think it was Havertz to Hudson-Odoi, and Hudson-Odoi driving up the pitch, and a beautiful cross to Ziyech, who finally got his goal, as he said, first goal of the season. We've been slightly critical of Ziyech in the previous episodes, maybe, but I think it's more because we're pushing him to do well. And I think hopefully that goal will unlock something in him that will now get more goals in him. But just a massive shout out to I think Tuchel's assistant who recommended at halftime to switch Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi. I think Hudson-Odoi was on the left and Ziyech was on the right, and they switched over, and that's what kind of led to the goal with Ziyech crossing the ball from the right hand side of the pitch to the left and finding Ziyech. So a massive credit to him for finding that little bit of tactics, I suppose, to get that goal. But overall, at the end of the day, it's 3 points, 3 points closer to Juventus, ahead of Zenit now. And if we get that game win against Juventus, hopefully we can top the group.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was always going to be a difficult game. You mentioned the fans. I remember the fans at Stamford Bridge, even though they were losing, they were still in great voice, and they didn't disappoint against us on Tuesday as well. But I thought it was obviously a predictable kind of lineup. You expected, the likes of Christensen, Silva, Rudiger to start. I think before the game, I think we sort of just discussed around Kepa potentially starting, and I think it was the right choice to keep Mendy in. But definitely, Hakim Ziyech, he played well. I think we spoke about him a lot on here. In a criticized him at times as well. Said that he does need to step up and do a bit more, and he's done that. So you can't take that away from him. He played really well. It was I do think it was a difficult game for us though, and I know we won, we got the 3 points, but I think just in terms of how much possession we had, and I think we had a total of 22 shots, 11 on target. It was just seemed, were we ever going to score? And I think that was how I was watching the game, was thinking, where's the goal going to come from? We spoke about Havertz in the past, what he brings to the team if he's not scoring, the runs that he makes and the way that he spreads the defense, and makes that space for other players to run into. And watching the game, I was just thinking, where is that goal going to come from? But, to see Hakim Ziyech get it as well, for me personally, obviously, hopefully he can kick on and get a few more now. But I wanted to talk to you because obviously second half, we saw the introduction of Christian Pulisic, who's finally got a bit of game time. I think he got about 15, 20 minutes of action. What was your thoughts on that as well?
It's brilliant to have him back. I think a fully fit Pulisic were arguably starting ahead of a Ziyech, ahead of maybe a even a Timo Werner or Havertz. I was actually rewatching his highlights against Porto. I think it was the away leg, even though both legs were in Sevilla last season.
Yeah.
And he's when he's fully fit, he's absolutely fantastic. And we saw glimpses of that when he did come on. And I think he'll get maybe a cameo appearance against Burnley before maybe giving him a start after that, after the international break. I'm still a bit annoyed that he's been called up to the USA squad because that's where he picked up his injury initially. I don't think that's the right decision from the American coach. But from a Chelsea perspective, it's fantastic to have him back, and hopefully he can stay fit for until the run up to Christmas.
Yeah, definitely. And it was also good to see Vale on the bench as well, Harvey Vale. I thought it was quite not an inexperienced bench, because that sounds stupid to say that around Chelsea, but it was good to see the likes, obviously Pulisic back, who we haven't obviously seen for a long time, Vale on the bench, Saul Niguez, Malang Sarr, those kind of players on the bench, not having to use them as well and still getting the result, for me was a good thing. I would have liked to have seen maybe Vale get on and maybe just get a few minutes, but I understand from Tuchel's perspective, you want to see the game out. You want to make sure that you get the 3 points as well. But just talking around, we spoke obviously around Ruben Loftus-Cheek in games before, not just Malmo, but before that as well. But it's good to see him back, which I think is potentially at his best, where we like to see him, and that level of performance that we know he can do. He showed signs of that when he was at Fulham as well, and Crystal Palace. But what do you think about Ruben Loftus-Cheek and how well he's doing at the moment?
He said he was fantastic once again on Tuesday. I think probably my man of the match alongside maybe a Hudson-Odoi. But he was fantastic. He marshaled the back line to ensure that his defense was protected. He didn't only kind of have this ability to pass the ball, but he also drove it up the pitch, causing the opposition headaches. And I was actually very, very surprised yesterday of the news that he wasn't called up to the England squad. I don't think he's been called up now since maybe the 2018 World Cup, or maybe, that kind of period around then, when you see players like Ward-Prowse, get called up ahead of him, or even, we'll talk about Trevor Chalobah in a bit with his new contract. But when you see players like Cody and Mings, who have arguably not had the best starts to the season, get called up, ahead of players like Tomori, Chalobah, Loftus-Cheek. I mean, I know he's a midfielder, but you start to question, Southgate, or, are you actually calling out these players based on merit or form? We had this conversation on WhatsApp yesterday. But going back to Loftus-Cheek, I thought he was fantastic. I'm just almost proud as a Chelsea fan to see, he went out on loan. People were saying that he's going to get sold permanently. And it's almost like he defied all of those people that said, he's not going to make it back into the Chelsea squad. And even us, I think if we go back to one of our very first podcast episodes when we were talking about players out on loan last season, whether they're going to come back, get sold, loaned out again in the summer, I think Loftus-Cheek was one of those names we mentioned. I think we were both keen to see him stay, but we also had doubts whether, he'd be in Tuchel's plans. Yeah. But I'm really, really proud to see him back in the squad. And I just kind of I want to see him start more games, if I'm honest. I still think, this with Werner and Lukaku's injury, he's starting a bit more. Mount's injury lately too, but arguably even when our four squad's fit, I still think he should be starting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right. I think I remember definitely saying him, if not on our podcast, but on another podcast, that I did think he was finished because of the type of injuries that he had. And they are injuries that you might not always come back and hit that form that you have previously. So I've definitely said, I think he was finished at that level in terms of Premiership. But he's a brilliant player. For someone who's 25, he's technically not necessarily hit the peaks that we know he can in terms of the very top level of that. But I think as long as he can stay injury free, I think he's definitely got to be in Tuchel's plans. He's proven that now. Forced his way back into the team, and he's doing really well. He's doing. I think he's just got to add. And I've always said this about him. He's always got to. For me personally, he's got to add goals to his game. And I think he doesn't necessarily do that. He does everything else. He can bring the ball through midfield and he can look for that brilliant pass, and he does that. He's strong on the ball. He can run past defenders. He can do all of that stuff. But in terms of goals, I think he's got to add that to his game now. And I think that would make him the overall, that would make it a very hard decision for Tuchel to leave him out then. But I think he's definitely one that we've got to keep. Coming back from those injuries, like I said, is something that not all players can do. He didn't have the best of time, I don't think, when he was at Fulham as well. You always look at players when the team gets relegated, if they're on loan, it's always difficult to kind of assess them. So I agree with you as well. I think, he should have got an England call up. I think that was something that, he should definitely have had. But like you said, we know that Southgate doesn't pick players on based on form. It's all, who's my mate, and who do I like, because that's surely what it can be. Ward-Prowse, no disrespect, shouldn't be in there. Connor Cody shouldn't be in there. And like we said on WhatsApp, Tyrone Mings has made a lot of mistakes this season. He was benched on the last Villa game against West Ham, so even Dean Smith's sort of questioning him at the moment. So I just think, maybe in a good way for us as Chelsea, it's probably good that he hasn't gone. I think about the likes of, like you just mentioned, Ryan Pulisic, who's not fully fit, but he's gone with the USA squad. That's travelling time, training, playing matches, coming back, and then there's a lot of that to take into consideration. So I think in terms of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, for me, I'm glad he hasn't gone. I'd rather him come and just stay, work on his fitness at Cobham, and then we can look at the games that we've got coming up with him as well. But another big, obviously, key player that we want to talk about. Big Trevor Chalobah, brilliant contract. I was actually shocked. I don't know why, because I knew the contract was going to get signed. It was never in doubt. But just to sort of see the pictures come out yesterday and it almost be confirmed was a bit of a relief, to be honest, because all three we talk about, obviously Christensen and Rudiger and Trevor Chalobah, they're all dragging. The negotiations seem to be dragging, and obviously to get this one over the line for me was definitely the first hurdle. So what do you think about Trevor Chalobah signing, as it says there, a surreal new Chelsea contract, boyhood club, obviously? What do you think on the new deal for him?
It's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic from a Chelsea fan. It's another kind of Cobham graduate, and he had a fantastic summer. I don't think any Chelsea fan, come maybe after the Champions League final, you thought that Chalobah would come back from his loan in France and establish himself in the first team. Even myself, I'm guilty of that. I thought he'd get sent back on loan, maybe even sold. And he impressed Tuchel in pre-season. And credit, it's great to see that, a player that if he does put in the hard work in pre-season and impresses the manager, then he's got a shot at, making the first team. And that's what we saw with Trevor Chalobah. And then he made the Super Cup. He played in the Super Cup. He played a very good game in that. Maybe he was a bit fortunate with injuries to, I think, Thiago Silva and other players, or maybe quarantine restrictions. But that maybe played in his favour. But in terms of the quality of the player, he's a brilliant player. I was at both games where he scored at Stamford Bridge against Crystal Palace and against Southampton. I'm talking about his goals here, but I can also talk about his defensive play. But he almost looks like he's played at Chelsea for years. When I see him, he looks so composed on the ball, very relaxed. He's tall, he's strong. I think at Lorient in the Ligue 1, he was playing as a central offensive midfielder. So he's got that in his locker as well to play as a midfielder, and that may add more goals to his game. I know he's a defender, but if you want, our defenders are scoring lots of goals at the moment, so we might as well talk about that. But it's great to see a new contract until 2026. We talk a lot about more maybe our defenders that we've brought in from other clubs, the likes of Silva, the likes of Rudiger, signing these crazy deals. But maybe if we can also bring in some academy graduates like Chalobah. We've been unfortunate to lose Guehi in the summer, but fantastic to see him sign a new contract. And that video, seeing all those pictures of him when he was young, I was actually quite surprised. I read that he made the bench in the 2018 FA Cup final, which I vaguely remember now. He was on the bench and Antonio Conte in that FA Cup final, and there's actually a picture of him with the FA Cup. So he has a small, he's got a glimpse now of what silverware, what it's like for him to win trophies at Chelsea, FA Cup and Super Cup, and hopefully many more to come now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's he's only going to go on leaps and bounds. I think in terms of the position that he's played, the experience that he's got alongside him in terms of Silva, Rudiger to an extent as well, Christensen, who's been there, we've mentioned previously, who's been in the first team since he was 17. So, having that experience around him is definitely going to make him a better centre back for me. I look at Chalobah and I see him as one for the future. I think in terms of the fact that we let Guehi go, we let Tomori go as well. Big centre backs, big players in the team, and then to keep him there and for him to warrant staying as well, because it's not just the fact he's there based off the numbers. He's there because he's worked hard, he's played well. Like you mentioned, the goals that he got as well for against Palace, brilliant, and Southampton as well. So I think he definitely deserves his contract. He deserves to be in the team as well. Brilliant play for me. Brilliant player.
Yeah, when you see kind of the name of a young player on a team sheet, you're always a bit like, ooh, maybe he doesn't have that experience to play this type of game. But Chalobah's not the case.
Hmm.
You know, ever since he started that Super Cup final, you kind of think now that he's established himself. Any kind of game, whether it's a Bayern Munich or even a Swansea or whichever team it may be, I'm talking about the two different like extents of the type of opposition you could play. Then he's capable of doing that. So it's really good to have him in the squad. And what's good as well, seeing Tuchel rotating those centre backs quite often. He's perfect for his Tuchel system as well.
Yeah, definitely. But let's move ahead to Saturday, 3 p.m. I think we are on Saturday. Burnley. We've got a good record, I think, against Burnley. If I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure, I think we've got a good. I think they've. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have. It's
since that
Burnley.
opening day, 2017, I think it's been
Yeah,
relatively good.
yeah. Erase that from the memory. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think we. I'm sure we beat them. I'm going to say we beat them 2-0
2-0, I
last
think
season.
Tuchel's second game in charge.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think Aspi and
Yeah.
Alonso. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your thoughts? I mean, obviously, we've had a nice sort of couple of days break from Tuesday, which possibly we needed, obviously, before the international break rolls upon us. But what's your thoughts against Burnley, who are out of form? I think they're 19th, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the league. So, I don't want to sort of say we should roll them over, but should we be rolling over Burnley? Should we be 7-0 in Burnley?
I mean, you're entitled to be confident as a Chelsea fan right now, but then it's still the Premier League. Any opposition can cause your team headaches. Burnley, particularly, they play quite traditional style of football, I want to say, and they did win very very comfortably and a very good performance against Brentford last weekend. So I want to say they're out of form, but at the same time, they're relatively in form if you count the last 7 days. So yeah, then again, we're at home. We've got Stamford Bridge. We should be having players like Mason Mount back fit, which should be good. I think Kante, if I'm right, he didn't travel to Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, or he wasn't match fit, or he didn't take part. So he may be back as well. And we've got a depth anyway. We talk about the depth every week, but we've got a depth to kind of handle these type of fixtures coming fast to us. And yeah, I'm expecting another win, I want to say, but it's going to be relatively tough. I think it will be kind of a bit like the Newcastle game, maybe 0-0 at half time, and then our goals will come in the second half, or maybe a goal in each half. But it's going to be, you know what to expect when you play Sean Dyche's Burnley. It's been tricky, and you did talk about a good record against them. I'm also remembering some games where they caused us a lot of headaches. So it's going to be a decent game though. I'm excited for it. It's 3 p.m. as well. It's usually you can't watch it on TV, but I'm glad this one's at Stamford Bridge, so I'm able to go. So
Yeah.
I'll be there at the bridge on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right as well. I think Burnley are a team that can. I mean, obviously, this season has been a very mixed bag of results for them. Obviously, they haven't been going their way. I think they're 18th, not 19th in the league, but they've got players that can cause us issues. Look at a Ben Mee, for a set piece, or I like Dwight McNeil. I think he's a really good player
Yeah,
for Burnley as well. So I think there are players in there that can cause us issues.
Cornet as well. Cornet is very good. Yeah,
Very good player, very good player. So I think there are players in there that can cause us issues, but I believe that we've got enough, 100% to deal with whatever Burnley try and bring to us. I think he was right about Kante. I don't think he travelled, but I think he should be fit. And I've missed the press conference today, but I think he should be fit in terms of returning back to alongside maybe a Jorginho in midfield. The question I was going to ask you is: Do you think Christian Pulisic, after the 20 minutes that he got against Malmo, would you risk him in a game like this ahead of that sort of international break that's coming up soon?
I think I personally would start him simply because I miss watching Pulisic play, and I've always kind of said it's the closest thing we've had maybe since an Eden Hazard of the style of football he brings. And that's what it's exciting to watch him at Stamford Bridge. We saw a lot more glimpses of that in the second half of the season last year than the first start. But at the same time, I wouldn't fully risk him. I think he got maybe the odd 15, 20 minutes, was it, against Malmo?
Yeah.
I'd maybe give him a bit more than that, maybe bring him on at half time should we need a goal, or maybe even give him 30 minutes this time. But I wouldn't maybe risk starting him from the start. But maybe Tuchel might think otherwise, depending on how he's trained and how much match fitness he's accumulated over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think if Mount's back fit, I think he'll start. I think maybe Ziyech or Hudson-Odoi have really proven the doubts was wrong recently, and they're playing really well. So I think they could both start again. But I think Mount and Hudson-Odoi are probably the sensible options behind Kai Havertz as the false nine.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting because obviously I haven't, like I said, don't know if you did, but I didn't get to see Thomas Tuchel's press conference today, so I don't know what the status of Mason Mount is. I'm assuming if it was an illness from last week, then that technically should mean that he should hopefully be fit enough to come back into the team. But I potentially would start Pulisic. I think I would. I'd give him maybe 60 minutes if he can sustain that. Bring him off and just give him a few more minutes. I think if he's back in training, then he should technically be be ready to start playing games again. If he's on the bench, for sure, definitely give him 60 minutes, because if he's on the bench, he's fit enough to play. He should be fit enough to play 90 minutes. So it's going to be interesting. Before we wrap up, let's talk about predictions, which we always like to do on here. So let's talk about predictions and who, how many goals are we going to score? Not what will be the score. How many will we score, and how many will we not concede?
So regarding it, I've got the app open here for the injuries. Alonso is added to the injury list, so Alonso won't play. Yeah, but
okay,
Mount
so
is
Chilwell.
Yeah, Chilwell, which is good. But Mount is fit to feature, so I think Mount will start.
Right.
And probably get a goal following the Norwich win. So I think it'll be a goal in each half, like I said, and it's going to be a 2-0 win to Chelsea. And if I could say goal scorers, I'll say Mount and a Jorginho penalty to keep it simple.
Yeah. I like 2-0. It sounds good. Sounds good. For me, the worry with Burnley is they know how to sit back and defend. And I think because of that, they will make it tricky. Obviously, if we had a Lukaku in the number 9 position, I'd probably be a bit more ambitious, and I'd say like a 3-0 or 4-0. But I think they'll defend very well. They'll be very compact, and they'll make it difficult for us, to try and get anything in that final third. So I like 2-0. I like 2-0. I'm going to go with 2-0 as well. So we're either going to be both right or both wrong. But I like 2-0. Sounds good to me. But whichever the case, as long as we get 3 points, that's the main thing. I think we need to just, if we can get 3 points and hope that the likes of West Ham can beat Liverpool, United can do us a favour against City this weekend as well. That 6-point gap between us and Liverpool, it looks great, because I think 6 points doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of football, it's a massive gap to have in this time at the moment in the Premier League.
It definitely, and you do look at Man City, they have a kind of tendency to, pick up their form come January or after Christmas. So I'm expecting bigger things from Man City in the second half of the season. So if they're able to drop points now, from a Chelsea perspective, it'd be brilliant. So definitely we'll be backing United on, I think it's 12:30 kickoff tomorrow. Yeah. And it would hopefully keep Solskjaer a bit longer in the job as well. So that would be good.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. And if West Ham can even get a draw against Liverpool, because they're looking like slightly of a threat as well, West Ham. So, but then on the long term, you kind of do back Liverpool to challenge Chelsea more than West Ham. But yeah, a draw or a West Ham win would be perfect as well on Sunday, I think that is.
Yeah, definitely. So 2-0, we're both going for 2-0, which is a rarity. We don't tend to agree on our predictions on here, but we're going to go 2-0. I haven't said goal scorers, so I'm going to give one to Kante. He likes to score the odd goal, doesn't he, from outside the box? Nice little screamer. And I'm going to go Havertz. I think Havertz will get a goal. Hopefully gets a goal, or maybe Pulisic, who knows. But yeah, 2-0, definitely. Looking forward to the game, obviously 3 p.m. kickoff. So I'm not as fortunate as Theo. I won't be at Stamford Bridge, although I will be in London, but just not for the game, unfortunately. So I'll have to try and watch it on the train somewhere on my iPad on some sort of source, some stream of some sort.
Second half at the Chelsea pensioner with a pint, maybe?
Possibly, if I can. Yeah, I've got to pass through London. So yeah, I'll find somewhere to try and just grab some Wi-Fi. But yeah, 2-0, we're going to win. 3 points. Burnley, not today, mate. Not today. But yeah, as we're going to wrap up, obviously, socials are at the bottom if you're on YouTube, and you can see them there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, Twitter and YouTube, if you just search From the Shed End on YouTube or Twitter, you'll be able to find us on there. And on Instagram, it's slightly different. It's From the Shed End with underscores between each of the words. So just give us a like, follow, interact with us, as I said before, and comment on our content as well. YouTube, definitely subscribe. The subscribers are creeping up slowly. I'm seeing them, we're nearly hitting 20, which is a milestone for us. But no, in all seriousness, obviously, anyone who is following us at the moment on YouTube, we appreciate it. And we're in this for the long run. So if you're listening to our content, just like and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend as well. If they're Chelsea fans, obviously. And yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll have another. Hopefully, we'll have a really good one next week. Because obviously, we'll have the Burnley one to look at, and we've got Zenit in the Champions League. So that'll be interesting.
Is that after the international break or before?
Correct. It's after, I think. Yeah.
So
it's again. I bypass international breaks because I don't like them.
We'll have some kind of topic to cover in international break. Maybe create some kind of dream five-a-side team, or
we've got
something
one.
like
We've got
that.
one that we spoke about, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good shout. It's a good shout. So yeah, we'll still have an episode next week, regardless. Anyway, we'll definitely have something for you guys to listen to. But episode 34 from the Shed End podcast with myself, T-Dart, and as always, Theo. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, enjoy your weekend, and let's hope we get 3 points against Burnley.